step 3, the children learnt how to write sentences from dictation. Now, these sentences used only tricky words that had been taught and words that the children should write by listening for the sounds in the words. For example, the teacher might ask the children to write a sentence such as, "They are in the hot tub." The children would then write, they, well, start with the capital letter, the tricky word, and the A is spelt with those 2 letters, E-Y. They are, another tricky word. Don't forget the E on the end, the tricky bit. They are in the tricky word. They are in the hot, hot, they are in the hot tub. And don't forget the dot at the end. Now, once the tricky words in step 4 have been taught, there are more sentences for dictation that become available. And these sentences have been carefully chosen to use only the first 42 letter sounds and the tricky words in steps 3 and 4. And they are available for downloading at the end of this section and in the resources section on the home page. However, the ultimate goal is for the children to be able to write independently. And in theory, this is now possible. The children know one way of representing the main sounds of English. They listen for the sounds in the words they wish to write and choose letters for those sounds. And this will enable them to create their own stories or write their own news. For example, a child might want to write, "My dad took us to the pictures." So the child has to think, first of all, my. It is a tricky word, but if they haven't learnt that, start with a capital. If they haven't learnt that yet, then they will stick to probably the one that they learnt first of all, my. Leave a space, dad, my dad. My dad took, two O's for ook. If they don't know the rule about C and K, then they will stick to probably the C. My dad took us, to, tricky word, to the pictures. And this is how it usually ends up, something like this. Full stop. Pictures rather than pictures, but you can still read it. My dad took us to the pictures. The words will not be all correctly spelt, but they should be phonically sensible, and other people will be able to read their work. And this is extremely empowering and a fantastic way of learning how to write. The children can put down what they want to say. Some of the children will find it easy and will be extremely creative and imaginative. Here are some examples of the children's work. Now, this one is typical of what can be achieved in the first year of teaching. I helped my dad make my tree house. My tree house is nearly finished. I like helping my dad. It is just lovely being able to read what the children are thinking. This step-by-step teaching makes it achievable. Now let's look at these next examples, which were written by children in a school in Northern Ireland. And their ages have been written at the bottom. So you can see this one's 5 years, 3 months, 5 years, 8 months, and 5 years, 10 months. And this one is based on the nursery rhyme, Jack and Jill. And you can see the child's finished it off in their own way. So Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down the hill and broke his crown, and Jill came down the hill, and Jill bring Jack back up the hill and got some more water. So they lived happily ever after. Lovely. And this child loves Kipper stories and is writing about them. And in this one, the child has been asked to write sentences about dogs. No doubt the class had discussions about it beforehand. And although there's not the capital letter and the full stop everywhere, it does feel as though it's going in sentences. So we've got my nanny's dog is in heaven. Police have dogs. Dogs eat dog food. A dog stood on a nail. Dogs have friends. A dog sleeps in a basket. I looked for my dog when it was lost. Rags the dog ripped his blanket. Writing like this, I think, is just delightful. 3/4 of the children can usually do a few sentences after 1 year of synthetic phonics teaching. The other children will be a little slower to get started and will get to this stage a little later. So let us now look at the children at the end of their 2nd year of synthetic phonics. This child has written her news in sentences, and you can see many more words are spelt accurately, and it's beautifully neat as well. Then these 2 stories were developed by the whole class looking at 6 pictures which had been muddled up and which illustrated a story. And through discussion the story evolved and the pictures were put in the correct order. And the first sentence of the story was written on the board to get the children going. They copied the sentence and then wrote the rest of the story. And this type of retelling of the story is usually easier than creating a story completely from their imagination. I think it is quite amazing what can be achieved. It might be tempting to think that only the best examples are being shown here. But if you look here, we have the whole class. If we go through them all, you can see their skill at being able to put down what they want to say in neat writing. And it is the whole class, and they're doing their very best. And towards the end here, we have some children who are struggling. Here are the strugglers. Got this one, and whoops, and this one. So these are the strugglers mainly, but the rest you can see have all written their own news very confidently. These children were in their 2nd year at school, and virtually all of them were 6 years old. They had watched a television programme about the famous Greyfriars Bobby, a dog that was loving and faithful to his master. And once again, the first sentence was written on the board for the children, and they had to write that sentence and then finish off the story. So here it goes, the story. This is the sentence they were given. A long time ago, there was a man who sold newspapers near Greyfriars Church. One man, so this child hasn't really read that sentence that well, one man had a dog. He watched him work. When he went to the cafe for his dinner, the dog got a bone. One day his master died. He was buried in a graveyard. The dog still went for his bone at the cafe, but he did not eat it at the cafe. He went to his master's grave to eat it. One day the cafe seller followed the dog. He ended up at his master's grave. The people made a kennel for him. He stayed there for 14 years. Then he died. So you can see that the vast majority of these children, very ordinary children, have learnt not only how to write, but also how to do it neatly and in joined-up writing. This was achieved by teaching the children to hear the sounds in words, showing them how to write the letters linked to the sounds, and then practicing the skills through dictation, starting with dictating the letter sounds and progressing to words and then to sentences, just as in the way that has been explained in steps 1 to 3. This is very empowering and an incredibly successful way of teaching children to write. The joined-up neat handwriting takes a bit more effort. When teaching the children to join the letters, it is important to demonstrate how it is done. Most of the time you take the pencil from the end of one letter to the beginning of the next. So if they're writing the word him, they would start in the usual place, do the h, and then they go to the next letter, stop, now write the letter, then up to where the next letter starts, the and down. him. If it's her, the h, into the which is the E, and then up to the R, stop where it starts, and then write the letter, her. Now a bit of guidance is needed for words with the caterpillar K formation in them. The caterpillar K letters are, here's the K, and they start the formation just like this caterpillar K. There's the A, and there's another caterpillar K at the beginning of D, and O, look, K, and back to the top, K, and hang the tail under, G, and the last one, the Q. By writing on these special lines like this, the children learn how to get the letters the same size, except for a few sticks going up and a few tails coming down. So when the children write on normal writing paper, normal lined paper, they know that they still have to make the letters the same size. So supposing they wanted to write, they went to the forest, they'd have to think, tall capital letter, tall H, they must make the E, tummy of the E and the tummy of the Y the same size as the H. They went, the W must be the same as the Y, W, E, N, torta. They went to, now this is a bit tricky, they have to go over and stop. That's sometimes difficult with young children. And you say, put on the brakes, come back, to. They went to the tricky word they went to the forest. Now here we have a tall f, and then they go into the O, stop, put on the brakes, come back, then the R, E, S, and the T, and then the full stop. There are different styles in handwriting, such as italic handwriting or joined with loops. It doesn't matter which style is chosen, that is a matter of personal preference. What really matters is that the handwriting should be neat as possible and with accurate formation and correct proportion. I think we often underestimate young children. They are far more able than we realise, so long as they are shown exactly how to do it. Accuracy in spelling improves gradually by reading many books, learning more advanced letter sound knowledge, and following a spelling program. Now, spelling is more difficult than reading because the children have to remember which alternative spelling to use. Now, for example, if a child wants to write the word name, he or she listens for the sounds n, a, m. Now, the n and m are reliable, but the A sound can be written in many different ways, as has been explained before. So let's look at it on the board. Here we've got 3 ways of writing A, and there's the AI way of writing the A hop over E, and here is AY. Now the children are not likely to try and write the AY one because they haven't been taught that yet. It comes in the next step. So they have to choose between those two. Now, if they've read the word name a few times, then usually they remember which one it is. And with luck, they will remember it's that one. The time for starting independent writing could be as soon as the first 42 letter sounds have been taught, or it could be later, depending on how good the children are at writing words and sentences from dictation. Some teachers prefer to use dictation for longer, especially if many of the children have English as their second language. It is a matter of judgment, and both ways work well.